All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Long Shots TV, our Friday primary edition, alongside Donnie RightSide. We're going to talk some football today, and actually, we got a special deal for you tonight. We're going to talk college football and NFL, and just get it all done in one shot. So, how you doing tonight, Donnie?
Doing good. Hey, man, another day, another dollar. Looks like there's some good college football games on tonight that we're keeping an eye on, some Major League Baseball, but it's Saturday and Sunday tomorrow. It's the weekend. Let's get after it in some football action.
All right, sounds good. First thing I want to try to do here tonight is just kind of run down your thoughts and my thoughts on where the top 10 teams are in your mind. So I'm just going to go ahead and give you mine. Right now, I have Michigan ranked at number one, Ohio State number two, Alabama number three, Louisville fourth, Clemson at number five, Washington at number six, Texas A&M at number seven, Miami, Florida, number 8, Ole Miss, number 9, and Wisconsin at number 10. Donnie, what do you have?
Little bit different there on the shakeup. I have Boise actually in the top 10.
Okay.
I just think they're going to end up running the table. My top 10 is almost, I want to say, more than looking at a snapshot now, what I think is going to happen down the line, because I think Boise State can play with just about everybody there, depending on a neutral site field if they do end up in a bowl game. As you know, Tony, they're pretty big-time bowl slayers against those big Power 5 teams. Number one, I have Alabama. Number two, Ohio. 3, Clemson. 4, Washington. Keep an eye on the Washington Huskies this year. Very underrated, very off the radar since they do play, obviously, out in the Pac-12, play a lot of late-night games. You're not going to get a good look at them, but they're a legit team. Love Michigan coming in at number 5. Again, they're setting up for that steamroller game, Ohio State-Michigan, in the big game to end the season. That's going to be a lot of fun. Louisville at 6, A&M at 7, Wisconsin 8, Tennessee at 9, and again with Boise State bringing up the final end of the top 10 at number 10.
All right, so slightly different there. Be interesting to see where it all ends up. Oh,
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I mean, you could almost make a case, at least from where I stood, to have actually Ohio State as the number one and put Michigan number two. I mean, first of all, they beat Bowling Green. Passing yards 349, 11.2 yards per play, 6-1 touchdown to interception ratio in that game. Rushing, they were only 6 for 30, 5 yards of play, but a touchdown. Then Tulsa, there were 149 there, 6.77 yards of play. Oklahoma, 7.6 yards of play, 4-0 on the touchdown to interception ratio, and then Rutgers, of course, 4-1. So when I looked at the statistics there side by side for passing and rushing, the only reason I put Michigan ahead of Ohio State was the rushing factor.
We'll know a little bit more about Ohio State tomorrow night when that big showdown there up in Madison. If they're going to be able to handle their business in that game, they're definitely going to get a bump from me.
Sure.
They're hanging out at number 2, not because of the talent, not because of the head coach, both phenomenal in all areas. I'm just waiting to see them with a statement game. You would have thought it might have been with like Oklahoma, but Oklahoma turns out to be a little bit fraud. I'm not that high on Wisconsin, even though actually having them in the top 10 just out of by default. But you're going to know a lot about them because Wisconsin's sitting there waiting on a bye. If Ohio State can go in there and put a beating on them, that's certainly going to raise a lot of anxiety towards Michigan in the Big Ten coming down the stretch, because I do think Ohio State is the most talented team overall in NCAA. But I just want to see them prove it a little bit more, Tony.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there, Downey. Okay, well, let's talk about a couple of the big games this week. Alabama at 6-0, Week 6 result. They beat Arkansas 49-30 and come into Week 7 at Tennessee. Crimson Tide quickly ended any hopes of Arkansas had on an upset win in Fayetteville. So, what do you see happening there at Tennessee? My opinion, Donnie, right now, I think that's a rollover. I don't think Tennessee is going to be able to stop that offense.
Yeah, it's in the SEC when you have a big-time home field advantage like Tennessee does, Alabama does. I mean, anytime you go on the road, it's going to be a little bit harder, obviously, to win. Alabama, by far, is the better team in this situation. Tennessee, I believe, living off of like that, I don't want to say Hail Mary from the last Georgia game, but just, a lot of luck on their side. They should have got beaten even worse last week with Texas A&M, except for that fluke play at the end of the game where they had the fumble out of bounds, which allowed Tennessee to come back and score. If they don't do that, that's a 14-point game. If they don't score, the game looks a lot worse. Right. Until I see Alabama get strung out and beaten, because they were on life support at Ole Miss and came back to win that game comfortably. I'm not so sure Tennessee can hang around. I know Jalen Hurd is back at running back, but Alvin Kamara was fantastic last week, scoring 3 times down versus Texas A&M. So I don't think that's going to be a big a boost as most people think it is. Jalen Hurd hasn't produced that much offense this year. Obviously, the quarterback situation, they have a very athletic one. They have good wideouts. But, again, when you come at Alabama, you have to bring your game all 4 quarters. Tennessee, to me, Tony's only played a half of football in each one of these games, has survived, actually, outside of last week getting beat in double overtime. And if they don't play 2 full halves here, Tony, it's going to be a cover for Alabama.
Right. There's always that potential. I think this is one of those spots Alabama's definitely going to have to be careful going into Tennessee, because if they do play 4 quarters, there's a good chance Tennessee could get really close or maybe even win it. So,
it's going to be a good one. No doubt about it. I'm going to enjoy that game.
Yeah, great game on my radar. Clemson. Let's talk about Ohio State, 5-0. They beat Indiana 38-17, and Week 7 opponent is at Wisconsin. Indiana's defense continued the Buckeye passing attack, but J.T. Barrett, Curtis Samuel, and Mike Weber were too tough to stop on the ground, and that's where I was talking about earlier. It's really hard. The only reason I put Michigan ahead was because of the rushing, but I think Donnie, Ohio State's starting to show that they can run that ball consistently.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about Ohio State this weekend, not to say not to win the football game, because obviously being a double-digit favorite, they're very impressive, and Urban Meyer gets these guys ready to play. Great coaching staff, great head coach, heady quarterback, athletic quarterback, going against a team with Wisconsin that doesn't move the football, quote unquote, at ease. They take a little bit of time there. Hornibrook's going to start again at the freshman quarterback. He's going to be in his, I don't want to say first big game, because obviously he played Michigan. Word came out today from Barry Alvarez that the first couple plays of that game, Hornibrook was hit by Michigan and busted up his sternum a little bit, so that's the reason why they couldn't get it going. I don't know if that's, just something for like a smokescreen to say, we couldn't score against Michigan. How are we going to score against Ohio State? Well, hey, our quarterback was banged up. That's why we couldn't score. Right. I think Ohio State is in a good position here, but Wisconsin at home in Madison, Camp Randall's going to be jumping in double digits. It's just going to be hard to cover. I think Ohio State is going to win the football game, but I think Wisconsin's going to slow down the tempo, play good defense, maybe hope for a turnover or 2, and come out ahead in this one. I would lean towards taking the points in this one, but I do think Ohio State is going to win this football game, Tony.
All right. Clemson, 6-0, beat Boston College last week 56-10, and they're playing NC State at home. No letdown for Coach Dabo Swinney's team after last week's win at Louisville, as Clemson cruised to an easy win over Boston College Friday night. And Donnie, I just think here's another team that just keeps doing what they're doing, and they're going to keep on winning.
I think they're going to win, but I actually like NC State to cover this game, sitting at about 17.5 to 18. Obviously, I think Clemson's the much better football team. It's hard to play at Death Valley and win, but you know me from being on the past couple weeks on the show. I'm a big fan of NC State. Love the quarterback, doesn't turn the football over. Really good running back, playing strong defense. I think they can hang around the chicken coop in this one. And again, if they're down late, 24 points, I think they can come back and get that backdoor cover to get it within 17. I know a lot of people just saw the game last week, NC State, Notre Dame in the rain, and just said, oh, man, well, they can't do much. Well, nobody would do much in the rain there. Clemson would have been in the same situation, and they're fortunate to come out of there with a 10-3 win. I do think they're a little bit undervalued in this situation here, so I would lean towards taking the points with NC State in this one.
All right. Okay, number 4 here. Michigan is 6-0, beat Rutgers 78-0, and they're on a bye week though. Michigan's statistical domination against Rutgers is one of the most staggering box scores to date. I mean, They just put on a display there. Though that week off sometimes, Donnie, I think affects teams a little bit. And I didn't look and see who they play next week, I believe. Shoot, I don't remember. But is that a position for them to? How do they come back and respond? I mean, do they keep on going, Donnie, where they left off, or does something change a little bit?
I think they'll continue. I think Jim Harbaugh, having that background, being in professional football, getting used to the bye week, getting his team ready to go and play. They've shown no chinks in the armor for the first, couple weeks of the season. I think it's only going to get better for them as they warm up to the coach, and they get a little bit more affluent with what he wants to do. Because, again, he hasn't been there 5 to 10 years like, Urban Meyer's been at Ohio State. So it is going to take a little bit of time. But I think they're hitting their stride. I think it actually came at a good time. Got a couple big wins there. They can catch their breath. Just beat down Rutgers. Didn't lose anybody in that game to injury. So I think it's going to help them, and I think they're going to be able to come back pretty strong after that bye week.
All right. Okay, let's talk about Louisville, 4-1. They're on a bye week as well. They're
Now Louisville's playing tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. They're playing tonight. They're coming off of a bye week, is what I meant to say, and they're playing Duke.
Yes.
That game starts at 10, I believe. Or no, they're playing
it's on right now. Yeah, it's third quarter.
17-7, and the line was what, 35 on that?
35. Yes, sleepwalking through this one. Louisville
boy.
is.
So this might be one of those situations that says, we're going to win the game. Let's not hurt ourselves. You think?
Yeah, they caught a couple breaks in this one already. I mean, they fumbled on their own 15-yard line. It got overturned when it shouldn't have been due to the progress of the runner was stopped, which it wasn't.
Wow.
Louisville just missed a field goal here to try to extend it to 13. So heading into the fourth quarter, it's a 10-point game. And whenever you have an underdog in that situation, they're going to believe they're going to be able to win. I don't know if Duke can score enough, even overcoming 10 points in one quarter. Mm-hmm. But, the 35 points, I was on another show earlier this week, Tony, and I just said, the line's 35 points. Duke is not a derelict program. Like, you give 35 points to like Rutgers didn't even get 35 points last week to Michigan,
right,
and it ended up 78 points. So when you look at that many points, it's 5 touchdowns. I always lean towards taking the points. Now, again, it does look good because the game is a 10-point game heading into the fourth quarter. But anytime you look at something around a 5 touchdown, you just have to look at the one team. Are they a derelict program going nowhere, no quarterback, coach is about to get fired? But that's not what Duke is. Duke plays each and every week. Whether they win or not, they're within usually 10 to 14 points against the better teams, and you're seeing that tonight. But again, Louisville just, Tony, straight up sleepwalking tonight. They'll be lucky to get out of here with a win, and I guess they completely overlook Duke. That's one of your situations that I'm glad you asked before with Michigan coming off that bye. Looks like Louisville wasn't able to handle it.
Right. All right, so we'll have to keep our eye on that. Washington at 6-0. I know this is one of the teams that you like. I like them as well. I think they're a powerhouse. They beat Oregon 70-21, and they are on a bye week. And, a changing of the guard is underway in the Pac-12 North. Huskies dominated Oregon to end a 12-game losing streak in that rivalry. But, again, here's another team on a bye week. Look at them, how do they come back? Are they going to?
They're good. I mean, I've been on them for a couple weeks now and ahead of the curve on this team. They have everything you need: a dominant running game, dominant offensive line, 3 very good wideouts, a super accurate quarterback, and a defense that doesn't need the blitz to get after the quarterback. They're the cream of the crop in the Pac-12. And I joked last week when we were talking about the game, we're looking at the over-unders here, literally said that Washington might not punt in that one. They scored 70 points. I'm not even sure if they did punt, but it's kind of a shame because when you're that hot the way they've been, they eviscerated Oregon, busted up Stanford. It's a really good football team, so maybe the bye week might hurt them a little bit since they're offensive-oriented, but Peterson's got that program moving in the right direction. I looked at, especially in the Pac-12, Tony, they don't play much defense as it is. Watch out, man. They're 50-plus points a game the rest of the way.
All right. Look forward to that. Wisconsin, 4-1, coming off a bye week, and they're meeting Ohio State, the Mighty Buckeyes. Wisconsin's had a pretty brutal schedule, but
battle tested, yes.
Yeah, battle tested. So, do you think that there's a possibility of them running up, taking Ohio State and holding them down?
I know they held Michigan down 14-7. They held LSU down. So they have that pedigree that they can slow the game down. The only question is, when you're in these big type of ball games against teams like the Ohio States of the world, you have to be able to score. Like, you can't expect Michigan was 14-7, but Michigan doesn't mind getting into a slugfest with you. With teams like Ohio State, you can't come into the game and say we're going to hold Ohio State under 20 points. That's not going to happen. I don't care if you slow the game down or how good a defense you play. The question is, can Wisconsin score 3 touchdowns on Ohio State's defense? Right. I'm not sure they can because that's what it's going to take to win the football game. But I do think they can slow it down and maybe get into one of those type games, 24-14, 28-17 type game, which, again, with that line sits right at 11, you probably will be right on that cover area. I don't like the game in particular, Tony, but I do think Wisconsin at home off a bye, big game situation, night game, I think they can hold their own and make that cover, but I don't look forward to them winning this football game. I just don't think they have enough talent on offense to do that.
All right. Okay, let's jump down to Tennessee, 5-1, lost to Texas A&M 45-38. Now they come in and play Alabama. This is one we talked about just a little bit in the beginning. But the Volunteers nearly pulled off another second half rally, but ran out of magic in overtime against Texas A&M. How do you think they fare in the beginning of this game? Is this a situation, Donnie, where Alabama comes out and just puts the pedal to the metal, or are we going to find a little seesaw back and forth on this game? Down through the first.
It seems to me, Tony, like Tennessee's MO is, forget what time the game starts. We'll bring the buses in at halftime because they're down in a lot of games early. Double digits, 20 points or so to A&M, 20 points or so to Florida. Came back in both of those games to win and actually lose in the latter game. But you can't do that against Alabama. If you get off the bus and you say, we're going to just throw our helmet out there in the first quarter, you're down 14-0 to Alabama. That's not the defense that you want to say, hey, we'll just, sit back in the pocket and start throwing it all over the yard out there. You can't do that. So until I see it from Tennessee and get 4 full quarters, now I know it's going to be rocking at Neyland Stadium. Mm-hmm. They're going to be up for this game. They're very excited. And a couple months ago, Nick Saban just throwing that jab at Auburn saying, our players look forward to the Tennessee game more than any game of the year. Well, you got your wish. It's going to be on the road. It's going to be loud. But again, it's just an environment when you have the best coach in college football. Lane Kiffin's one of the best coordinators, and you have the best talent out there. Boy, it's a hard triple trifecta to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, Ole Miss 3-2, had a bye week, and now they're at Arkansas. The Rebels return for the bye week, looking to end a 2-game losing streak to Arkansas. Can they do that, Donnie?
I think they can. The one thing that's interesting is I just like the style that Arkansas plays. They're going to be in every football game. They were in it with Bama for a while last week, and just, talent just takes over. Ole Miss always has that wild card with Chad Kelly at quarterback, but something tells me that Arkansas is going to be sitting back in the hatch and waiting in this one. I would look to Arkansas in this game to put up a really good fight. Any thoughts on that one, Tony?
I kind of agree with you there, but in the end, I think Ole Miss just has a little bit more
firepower.
Firepower and gets it done and gets the cover.
Yeah, interesting game. Again, it's looking over this whole card here. It's a great card. Both looking at in conference, in division play, it's really good.
Yeah, I love it. Should be a good week.
Yep.
Okay, Baylor 5-0, coming off a bye week, also is playing Kansas at home. Bears have one more tune-up, Kansas, before hitting the toughest portion of their 2016 slate. Does Baylor keep on rolling here, or does this where they hit the rock?
Baylor rolls in this one, but again, I'm just looking at the overall numbers in the game. 35 points, and again, this isn't your Art Briles Baylor, meaning that they're really stretching you. A play every 15 seconds and just gashing you left and right for 15, 20 yards. Because if you take Art Briles teams against Kansas, it's 70-10. I don't know Jim Grobe's Baylor team is, as powerful, as athletic as they were in the past couple of years. So, again, if you can get 35 in that game, as bad as Kansas is, I still would lean towards taking the 35 because, again, Art Briles teams, they would have ran them up the flagpole. I'm not sure that Jim Grobe has that pedal to the metal just yet.
All right. Sounds awesome. Okay, let's talk about Nebraska at 5-0. They had a bye week also and playing Indiana. Week 6 bye came at a good time for the Cornhuskers. Quarterback Tommy Armstrong, tight end Sethan Carter, and receiver Jordan Westerkamp are just a few of the Cornhuskers that are nursing injuries from the first month of the season, so I'm sure the bye week helped them there. This ought to be a really good game. It's actually a game, Donnie, that I was kind of keying on. I love this matchup, but there's definitely one team I would put money on that comes out on top on this one. What do you think, Donnie?
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a good one. Going back and forth. Is this good? Is this the long shots play of the week?
It is.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me hear about it.
All right, long shots play of the week for college football guys is Nebraska. The Huskers -3. Book it.
Interesting, because that line opened up at 6.5 and did drop to 3, where it sits now. It's been bouncing today between 3.5, but it's definitely an interesting game there in the Big Ten. We'll see how that one plays out.
It is. All right. Let's jump down to Houston at 5-1. They lost to Navy 46-40, and then they are playing Tulsa at home. Houston's playoff hopes sink after the loss to Navy. Coach Tom Herman's team now needs a little help to win the American Athletic Conference West Division. Can they do that there, Donnie?
It's going to be a good game, meaning that Tulsa, I mean, this is a brand of football that if you like offense and you like wide open systems, this is going to be one to watch. Tom Herman has this team rolling with Houston. Now, rolling on offense. Last week they were upset by Navy. I still can't believe they lost that football game. Yeah. They should have just out-talented Navy overall. They couldn't get it done. Every time you turned around, Navy was scoring on the pass, on the run, interception returns. Just a complete letdown, a complete mess for a 17-point favorite on the road at Navy. I think they're going to settle down. This is the perfect antidote. Tulsa coming to town. Tulsa's got a big-time running back, big-time quarterback, and a big-time wide receiver. It's going to be a lot of points in this one. I know this over-under is totaling in the 70s. I think it's going to be every bit of that 70s there because, again, Greg Ward's going to do whatever he wants to do, but Tulsa also is going to have a great game plan coming in this one. I wouldn't lean towards a side so much, even though obviously Houston should win the ball game. I would lean towards a shootout in this total, somewhere to end up in the high 70s and probably get that cover.
Absolutely. All right, number 14, Oklahoma 3-2. They beat Texas 45-40, and they're playing Kansas State at home. Sooners use big performances by quarterback Baker Mayfield, 390 passing yards, running back Samaje Perrin, 214 yards, and receiver D.D. Westbrook, 232 yards receiving to hold off Texas 45-40 in the Red River rivalry. That was definitely, and always is, one of the greatest football games, and usually is a pretty high-scoring game. Donnie, do you see Oklahoma continuing to roll? I mean, Kansas State, in my opinion, they've been kind of up and down. Not really sure what they're all about, but Oklahoma, they play one brand of football, and that's smash mouth.
Yeah, Oklahoma's got to show me that they can cover a 14-point spread against a well-coached team. Yeah. They can put up the points. Baker Mayfield just running up and down the field. Bob Stoops has the offense, a well-oiled machine. But Kansas State and the fighting, Wildcats under old man Bill Snyder, they're going to have something up their sleeve in this one. So if it's me, I'm looking towards it's bouncing between 14 and 13. If you get 14, you know where to go with the underdog in this situation. I don't think Oklahoma's going to have much of a problem scoring, but then again, I don't think Oklahoma can stop too many football teams, downright cold. Is this game going to be a 45-10 type ball game? No, it's not. I look for Kansas State to be in this one right to the end. I think Oklahoma's going to win the game, but I would lean towards Kansas State to getting the cover here.
All right. Okay, guys, you heard it there. Okay, we're going to jump over to NFL now. If you guys out there have any questions, please send them in. I know there's been a little conversation going on back and forth, and appreciate the sentiments, guys, thanking us, for the show. And if you have questions, please shoot them out there. We'll try our best to answer them. Okay, jumping over to the NFL, guys. We've got a pretty good set of games going on here as well this weekend. Sunday, first game, 1 o'clock, is Cincinnati, New England. New England's favored by 8. Wow, this is all over the board, Donnie. Anywhere, it opened at 7 on mine, what I'm looking at, and is anywhere from 8 to 10.
Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed in Cincinnati, especially the way they played last week versus Dallas. I didn't have that game, right, but I was leaning towards taking Cincinnati. They didn't even show up. I mean, and it's definitely a red flag. I know they're missing Tyler Eifert. They're banged up in a couple positions, but that was more of a no-show last week where, they tried to make it close at the end of the game, which they weren't able to do, still ending up losing by 2 touchdowns. The one game I was worried about last week was which Tom Brady would show up, and it looks like the 30-year-old all-pro Tom Brady showed up. So they're coming home. The crowd's going to be rabid. The Boston Red Sox are out of the equation now, so it's all New England Patriots all the time up there. They're going to be excited. It's going to be one big party up there. And I'm not stepping in front of New England. I know in the NFL I love to be a contrarian bettor, and I know they're getting over a touchdown, but right, I'm not stepping in front of New England at this point. If it was up to me and I was betting this game, which I won't be on this game, I'll be taking New England until somebody proves me wrong with Brady.
Yep, absolutely. I actually kind of leaned a little bit towards Cincinnati here. I think Cincinnati can hang around and keep that number close. But, again, if we see the same Tom Brady out there, then they can easily cover that number. Yeah,
I've been waiting for Cincinnati to wake up all year long. I mean, they're 2-3, which they should be a front runner in the AFC. They should be no worse at this point after playing 5 games, 4-1, or at least 3-2. I don't know what the deal is there with Marvin Lewis. Maybe it's time to move on, but until they show me something, I can't back them yet.
Yeah, true. I really thought that they'd be one of the top dogs right now. Okay, let's jump down to Pittsburgh at Miami. Miami is +8, +7.5, depending on where you're looking. At home against Pittsburgh, that is one of those touchy numbers in my mind. When Pittsburgh goes down to Miami, generally this is one of those spots that they get beat. What do you think, Donnie?
Steelers fans going to take over this game. The one thing that I don't like, again, you have to look in the NFL more so than college football to see which way the action of the betting public is going.
Right.
And it's overwhelming. Over 70% is going on the Pittsburgh Steelers. The line opened up at 7.5. It's almost 7 across the board. Some 7.5s are pop up, so that'll give you a red flag right away. And this isn't the Steelers defense that's going to go down there and just be able to shut teams down. I know the Dolphins have been bad. I know Adam Gase has been a disappointment. Tannehill is struggling. They just don't have it together yet. But again, laying more than a touchdown on the road is a recipe for disaster in the NFL,
right,
especially when all the money's piling up on one side. I would actually feel better, Tony. It sounds crazy taking the Steelers if they were -10 in this one, because then you're setting up a runaway. But that number is a fishy number. I haven't made a decision on which way I'm going to lean yet on that game. But you know me, home team, getting bet against and getting more than a touchdown, sign me up.
Oh, yeah.
Time.
Yeah,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean?
Yeah, I think that's money because the books that I'm looking at right now, as far as the spread goes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing 59% on Pittsburgh, 41% on Miami.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a little bit different. Okay, let's jump down to Philadelphia at Washington. Washington +3 at home against the Philadelphia Eagles, Donnie's favorite team that had a little bit of a letdown last week in Detroit.
Let me down to my wallet as well, Tony. That was my only loss on the day in the NFL. My
man.
Eagles.
Yeah, that was a killer. I was on that play as well against my Lions.
Mm-hmm.
But, you got to do it. You can't be a homie. You can't be a favorite. When the line and the play looks good, you got to take it.
Yeah.
How do you think they respond this week at Washington? Do you think they bounce back? Does Carson Wentz have a good game?
Yeah, I'm surprised. This line is completely moving, Tony, in the Eagles' direction. The Eagles opened up +1.5, have now swung all the way to -3, and that's on the heels of Jordan Reed. Looks like he's not going to play, which is 50% of their offense. He's the engine that makes Washington go. Jordan Reed looks like he's not going to play due to his 6th NFL concussion, but they're dangerous. Washington is dangerous in the areas that the Eagles don't want to, somebody to be dangerous. You have Deshaun Jackson, Jamison Crowder, Pierre Garçon, very quick wideouts. The one thing that you can get over on the Eagles is at their cornerback position. They have very good safeties, but that does worry me a little bit there. And again, I have to see it out of the Eagles. Last week was a big game for the Eagles. They didn't show up in the first half, played well, should have won the football game if it not for a late fumble and an interception on the following series for Carson Wentz's first of the year. But that was a game that was going to show me if they were for real. They did play well, but again, this is another type situation. You're going on the road this time in a division. You have to have this ball game. So does Washington. It's hard to put the Eagles in a favorite and say I'm going to absolutely back them. So if it's 3 points, as much as I love the Eagles, I probably would be leaning Washington, even with the injury information to Jordan Reed. We'll be rooting for the Eagles, but I don't like that situation if it's a field goal. Anything less, I probably would lean towards the Eagles. But again, Tony, I just need to see more out of this team on the road before I can back them with a lot of money.
I agree, and I'm showing 94% of the money is on Washington.
Really? I have 80% on the Eagles.
Wow.
Interesting.
It's very interesting when you go from I'm on Sportsbook Review.
Yeah.
Showing it. So, the problem that I have, guys, especially when you're looking at these numbers, and you already see there's such a differential in it. You got to go across multiple sources to find that information and then compile it together, doing an average, okay, to get a true number. That'll give you a much better idea of what's really truly going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's make sure we pay attention to that. All right, Baltimore, the New York Giants. Giants favored by 3.5. Baltimore, despite my hatred of them, is still rolling. How do you think they do against Eli and company at New York, Donnie?
Baltimore in a trailing mode, meaning getting points. It doesn't matter if it's home or away. I'm always a big fan of them because my theory on Baltimore, and again, I was on Washington last week, +4. They actually won outright at Baltimore. Baltimore doesn't cover point spreads when they're favorites. They might win the game. They might play it close. They never cover. You can give them a 1.5 point line. They won't cover it. They'll win by 1 point. It's just the way Baltimore does it. Interesting that they're now getting 3 to 3.5 in this game. I do lean towards the New York Giants in this situation. I think they're a better overall football team. But again, them getting 3.5 is kind of intriguing because, again, Baltimore as a favorite doesn't work for me. Baltimore as a dog does. So I'm going to be tapping into this game to see if I can find the side on this one. But very interesting the way it's setting up there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's jump down here to the LA Rams at Detroit. This is a game I was looking at. Detroit at home, favored by 3. Looks to me like about 90% on Detroit. That's a very interesting line. The big news was Detroit acquired Justin Forsett. Now, if we see the old Justin Forsett in there, that's going to give Detroit a big boost, in my opinion, Donnie. And then they start to roll a little bit here, which is going to help Matthew Stafford in the passing game by far. Do you think the addition of Forsett's going to help Detroit?
No, because that Theo Riddick injury is huge. I mean, he's what makes that offense go. Obviously, with Eric Ebron, it looks like they're both going to miss this ball game. Justin Forsett, I don't even know if he knows more than a quarter of the playbook at this point. And the fact that he just got cut by Baltimore when Baltimore has barely any playmakers does put up a red flag there. I don't like Detroit. Not to say I don't like, Detroit winning the game. I just don't like them sitting there as a favorite at -3.
Right.
Last week I was on the Buffalo Bills at the Los Angeles Rams, and they did win that game. I'm not a big fan of the Rams either. Don't like this game either way, but I don't like Detroit. I like last week with the Philadelphia Eagles. I like them a little bit better being a home dog, a little bit disrespected there, even though they do have some players that are out due to injury. Mm-hmm. So I would lean towards that way, but I just don't like them as a favorite. I would just lean towards the points in this situation. That's all.
I agree. Okay, let's see. Kansas City at Oakland. This is a pick'em, Donnie, and this is a good opportunity for bettors, I think, if you're reading the lines right or reading the game right here. Kansas City at Oakland, in my opinion, I think a lot of people are going to be leaning toward the Raiders in this situation. But how do you think Kansas City fares out west?
Man, Andy Reid off a bye, one of the best stat in all of football history. He dominates out of it. You have Jamal Charles coming back. Looks like he's healthy this week. Sharkandrick West looks like he's going to play also. And they just have, play good defense. Banged up a little bit, Oakland Raiders at running back, as you know. And Oakland doesn't blow anybody out. So, I mean, if you're going to look at this ball game, I'm actually surprised at this point that Kansas City has swung to a favorite, which leads you to believe, I mean, money is coming in on Kansas City. It looks like the right side. I haven't tapped into this game or really done much in the NFL opposed to just looking and just checking out a couple things. But I would be leaning towards Kansas City here, Tony.
Yeah, I have 2 plays locked in already, and I'll just go ahead and say it. This is one of those games, so a little information there. Dallas at Green Bay. I find this again an interesting game. Been a lot of NFL memes floating around Facebook throughout the week here, where Dallas put the hurting on Aaron Rodgers. So we're going to see what happens. Do you think? I know the line's 4.5 right now, Donnie.
Yeah,
I see Dallas getting slaughtered here.
It's kind of interesting when you point it out. Green Bay at home is one of the best bets in football. Last week I did give out on one of the radio shows Green Bay first half. They just seem to come and roll. I don't actually like Green Bay so much in this spot because what Dallas does is what Green Bay doesn't want to stop, and that's just going to be running the football, playing, trying to slow Aaron Rodgers down. I know injury to Randall Cobb last week. He's still questionable with that neck injury. He's probably going to play, but he's a little bit banged up. Eddie Lacy's on one leg. You're not going to get James Starks in this game. He's already out due to a death in the family. That line just tells me Dallas in this one. Same way that last week I thought they could have handled the Giants a little bit easier, but they allowed them back in the game. 2 interceptions by Aaron Rodgers. I won't bet against Green Bay at home, but that line is telling me right now that Dallas is for real and is probably going to play with them here.
Yeah, I still had my doubts until last week, but I think that the addition of Ezekiel Elliott there and the way he's running the ball definitely helps their game. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see. 8:30 game, Indianapolis at Houston. I see no action on this game right at the moment. The line is -2.5. The Colts banged up a little bit, and Houston at home at 2.5. That seems to me like a good trap line, Donnie.
That's an absolute trap line there, Tony. And it's a shame that that's the Sunday night ball game, which you probably could have picked any other game, but it would have been a better game to put on there. Houston hasn't shown up this season. Brock Osweiler's been a disaster down there. They have two dominant wide receivers. You would figure a quarterback with a big arm would just be able to feed those wide receivers, move the football. They have a very good running back with Lamar Miller. I don't know what their problem is, and Indianapolis is not a good football team at all. So you're saying they're going to go on the road, and even 5 dimes is showing an alternate line of only 2.5. Something's wrong here, and backing Houston in this situation with that line, something's got to give on this one. I don't like this game either way because I don't like either one of those football teams, but it looks too easy, Tony, just to sit there and take Houston in this one as under a field goal, but something's not right. I would just stay away from this game altogether.
Okay, we got a comment in the chat board there. Ace Man Chris said that Cardinals are going to be winning this game 17-14. They've been one of the good teams this year. So thanks for the comment there, Ace Man, and you could be right on this one. We may have to tell you. All right, and then the Monday night game, Donnie, is the New York Jets at Arizona. Arizona's favored by 8. Again, another line I don't understand. I mean, I know there's not, I don't see any money coming in on this game. I'm sure it's going to change. The line's going to change, and I would think that it's going to drop to 7 or maybe even 6.5 here.
Yeah, it seems to be mostly 7 across the board, a couple 7.5 out there in an outlet. The one thing that the New York Jets do very well is rush the pass, so they have a dominant front 7. And Mike Iupati and also Evan Mathis looks like they're not going to play in this ball game. That's going to hurt. And Carson Palmer, concussion history already, hasn't played well this year. I don't know if that's the team that you want to shake it off against and play. So, I mean, I would lean towards the points on Monday night.
All right. Okay, so, Donnie, just let the viewers know, how many games in college, how many games do you have locked in right now?
I got 3 locked in right now. I'm looking at 2 to 3 other ones, depending on some late injury information and also some weather. So we got 3 solid ones already out there, and looking to add a couple more as the day goes on.
All right, and I have 4 college games already locked and loaded, ready to go for our investors, and I do have 1 NFL play already locked in. I think it's a walk in the park. So you might want to take a look at that. You can get Donnie's picks at DonnieRightSide.com, or you can get a hold of him at RightSideVP. You can get a hold of us here at LongShotsTV on Twitter, or message us on the chat board, or jump on over to Facebook and search the group Trend Betters. It's one of the greatest sports group out there on Facebook. Little over 9,000 members. A lot of good stuff. No spam, no junk in the group. A lot of good conversation, a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it. Please jump over there and join Trend Betters on Facebook. Guys, it's been a good show. Love talking football. I could do this all night, but I'm sure that people want to sit and watch the games as well. So we're trying to get out of here. Donnie, any parting thoughts here?
Parting thoughts. Early in the week, this line is no longer there. So I'm just going to put it on the record. North Carolina in college football, the Tar Heels at Miami. We grabbed 8.5 before the line moved on Wednesday. It's now down to 6.5. If you could take that anywhere around 7 points, I think UNC hangs around in that football game. Possibility to even win it outright, but I think that's going to be a strong play. I have that as a premium play that's already been sent to clients a couple days ago. So if you want to jump on and tail late, have at it. Once again, UNC Tar Heels plus 7 or more should be a good one for you there. We have it at 8.5 on the monitor, and we'll see how that one works out for us.
All right. Donnie's on fire this year in football, as always. CJ the Razor, you can find him on trendbetting.com. He is, I believe, 5-0 in the young NHL season, so you're going to want to watch. Jump over there and take a look at that. And right now I am 2-0 on NHL plays as well. So NHL is a good season for us. We make people a lot of money for that. So, Johnny, it's been fun as always. Love talking to you, and we shall see you next week, brother.
Yep, absolutely, man. Friday night, let's make it a party.
All right. Yeah.